in high school.
All right, you guys, I'm ready to get started. Regular council meeting of April 4th, 2022.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Get started. All right, roll call, please.
Mayor Laughlin.
Here.
Councilperson Sexton.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Goodweiler.
Here.
Stillman.
Okay, the consent, no, I need someone to, motion to approve the agenda for tonight, please. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. All right, we can do the agenda. The consent agenda consists of the minutes, approving the minutes of the March 21st regular council meeting, approval of Sydney Robb as a first responder with the fire department, approval of a special event permit from Jesse Simon of the West Branch CDG, Executive Director, a motion to appoint Paula Verlo to the Board of Adjustment, Zoning Board of Adjustment, which term expires in December 25. A motion to appoint Greg Homerhouse to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which would expire in December of 2026. A temporary street closure of Elm Street. And the claims for April in the monthly financial report. Motion, please, anyone. Second, Jerry. Okay, any questions on any of those items? Anyone?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Paul.
Where on earth are we gonna get 50 amp service? Out in the middle of the street.
There's a couple of places downtown that have service there. We have them added for hometown days because we have the food trucks down there.
Okay.
So there's a 50 amp on. There's a couple manholes if you go look in the sidewalks.
I don't need to look.
There's a couple spots.
All right, good job. Is the stage on the south end or the north end of this? You know? It should be
The stage will be on the north end.
north, okay.
Matt, you feel good about that power being available, right?
We'll have it checked out.
They'll
just to
test
make
it.
sure everything's good.
Okay. I know I've asked before, but I'll keep asking till we test it.
Okay. Any other questions pertaining to the consent agenda? I think Paula and Greg are good choices. Thanks for volunteering, Paula.
On the, when they do construction like up there, they're pulling a lot of mud. I mean, it rained, I get it. A lot of mud out on the park side. Can we, is there an ordinance or something that
Best we can do is ask them to sweep it once in a while.
Right.
End of the day.
Is there a sweeper up
but
there?
I don't know if that works or not.
Yeah, I know we've been scraping it, but it's just, at the end of the day, make sure it's scraped. We do have room, but I don't know how much more. We've been running skid loader over at the end of the day trying to.
Well, it rained enough over the weekend then. It's,
Wasn't
Yeah,
bad
no,
today.
no.
Today was okay. Okay. Anybody, anything else? If not, we will vote on the consent agenda. So go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller.
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Stillman.
yeah.
Dean.
Yes.
Goodweiler.
All right. We have no one signed up for volunteering to communications open forum. No one on site. If anyone is online to present to the council or communicate with open forum, we can hear what you have to say, but we can't act.
I'd like to say something quick. I would just like to extend an invitation to all of you to attend our Sweets for Success fundraiser on Friday, April 22nd. We'll be back at Little Lights on the Lane, and this is the West Branch Community Development Group's largest fundraiser of the year. So a great opportunity to come out and support our Main Street District and our local small businesses that reside within it. Starts at 6 p.m. You do need a table reservation in advance, so we do still have a couple tables left. And if you're not able to attend that event, another great way to get involved is, of course, to make a monetary donation or to donate a dessert to be featured in the auction. And that's kind of a good, very public way to show support as well, because you'd have your name in the program and get a little shout out at the event. So a interesting way for the council to show support publicly. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them about that event too.
Some of us will be there. So I hope so. Thank you, Jesse. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the first reading of ordinance 792, amending chapter 165 of the Code of Ordinances regarding signs in the highway commercial industrial zone. Give me a motion, someone. Jody. So Terry Gert came up with this ordinance. I imagine has a lot of parts of Coralville or Iowa City in it. The planning and zoning passed it on to us. They approved. So and this is specifically the interstate south. Well, it might be the Parkside Hills too. Is that a heavy commercial industrial? It's not. It's just south of the interstate. Yeah. There's been a lot of inquiries on signage up there. Leslie doesn't have an answer for him. So, I guess if there's no comments or questions.
Signs currently violate this.
If they don't, they should.
Probably one that does.
I kind of
It's on
figured
city
there would be,
property.
but I didn't know.
The
Yeah.
hotel sign violates.
There's a few up there that were trying, that were well, somewhat addressed a few years ago, but then it kind of.
My question would be, does this go retroactive or do they become
They're grandfathered in, and if the sign is knocked down or different business comes in, wants to put a different type of sign in, they have to comply then. But if they're damaged, then they do have to replace them and comply.
I don't know. Some of this I don't like.
Go ahead.
Well, like the freestanding signs, it says that shall not be lower than 10 foot, should not exceed 65 feet, and has no maximum size. So everybody just start putting billboards up everywhere. I'm not crazy about the one that's there.
The 10-foot rule would be so you can see underneath it, I'm sure. The 10-foot minimum.
The height
the
wise,
size.
it's the no maximum size.
How do you control that? Given a percentage?
Just make a area calculation is how you do it.
Yeah, how's that other one? 200 square feet per 100 square foot of weight.
That's per frontage, so that's a pretty typical Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty type thing there. Yeah, how you do it, number or letter C would be come up with a maximum size per face.
Right.
I mean, we'd want some like the McDonald's and Casey's, those signs are bigger than they look.
They're huge.
Yeah, you know, and I guess we don't have problems with like those, but that billboard just doesn't look good.
I think it's atrocious when you're coming interstate going eastbound, you go to get off of West Branch, and you look down there in that hollow and you got 7 great big signs sitting there. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
And then you look on the other one, it's a porn shop in Des Moines.
that's the dirty bookstore one, yeah. They took that one down.
For now.
The guy rolled it up, he was gonna hang it up on his buddy's house or something.
That was a practical joke.
Yeah.
Free speech is.
Okay,
good.
so I can agree with you, Colton, to limit the size of a,
Yeah, because Tidewater's got that short one. I kind of like the way Tidewater did it, because it sits on that hill. And it's probably no taller than 3 foot or 4 foot.
I don't think that meets,
It's too, far enough above the ground. probably.
Maybe it's bigger than what I think.
is that a
but-
freestanding sign or a monument sign?
That's probably a monument sign, isn't it? It's
yeah,
kind of like this. It's not on a pole.
No,
It's
it's-
kind of
No.
like that. I think that's probably a monument sign.
That's a
That's what I
monument.
call it, I
and
guess.
it's at the end of a cul-de-sac. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, so
You want to pass the first reading and
we
then I'll
could do the
come,
first reading.
come back
and-
with the, what some other cities have for,
Yeah,
I'll get it before the next meeting so you guys can look at some comparisons from around here.
okay. Like that.
could you just put freestanding signs and then put a thing in there, no billboards?
But if you,
Billboard's pretty loose.
I want to have a
Size.
size, so then you know, it's just, I've seen billboards that are smaller and stuff too, so. You could get rid of billboards by saying no
Billboard's
off-premise
80
signs.
80 by something.
but there's-
Okay, anybody, anything else?
Is it?
Then I,
1 foot candle, is that really a thing?
yeah,
Oh, is that the monument?
I thought they were called luminous.
That is some, engineers would know that.
a foot candle can have a certain luminosity to it.
Yeah, I hate that. Absolutely.
Okay, I suggest we approve this tonight, and then on the second reading, it'll be modified slightly.
I'll bring some options back and you guys can figure out what you want to do.
Beautiful, let's move on. So let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
All right. Resolution 22-30, setting a date for consultation and a date for a public hearing on the proposed amendment number 5 to the amended and restated West Branch Urban Renewal Plan. Motion, please.
So moved.
No second.
I can explain if you want.
Yes, please.
Okay, so
dates.
The two, we are adding 2 areas to the renewal plan, or actually 3. The former gas station or former BP that's being redone right now is being added. Parkside Hills, the entire subdivision is being added, and basically the Kroll site. So basically, it's going to be Main Street, 4th Street, College Street, and then the west side of the old railroad right of way. So basically, that whole block will be designated slum and blight. So those 3 areas we added in the project, and we're going to add Wapsie Creek as you go through town. So we could, if we needed to, we could help do some clean up there too. It's a
Bunch of dead trees and along the creek.
North of Main Street. Yes.
So we're gonna add that in, and then the projects will be, what Adam said, the trees, there'll be rebate agreements, development agreements for 2 of them on the Parkside Hills property, since they're owned by 2 different entities or companies, the same owner, and then there'll be 1 development agreement on the old Kroll site.
So I have a question, since we're doing that whole square, is like chassis engineering building included in that, the old Casey side?
No, I have not included that. I just did the west side of the, so where that driveway is, it goes back to those businesses behind like Staker's Chiropractic. those businesses aren't included. It's just the old right of way line. You can if you want. That's not a, that was my proposal.
That can be done later.
Well, but I ain't adding stuff there 3 times a year. We're coming back here to add stuff.
I'm all for that. I don't like.
Thing is with that on the other side of the creek. I mean, if that ever,
floodway.
it's a floodway, I mean, if those buildings go down, it's done, it's just gonna be a park. There's really no reason to. I mean, what would we ever need to do in there that would need some assistance?
Demolition. That would be the only thing I can think of.
Either that, or do you connect other parts of neighborhoods into that in the future? That would be the only.
Well, you could do that in the future if you wanted. But it's up to you guys. That was just my proposal. I made it an easy thing, street, and the right of way, or the old right of way line of the railroad, so it's easy to describe.
But part of the development of the coal site will include a detention basin, which is now city property.
We're not putting that in, are we?
There's no building going there.
No, but there's no need to, that's not something we're doing. Okay. So that's part of the developer's responsibility to do that. So what the plan is, get this approved the first meeting in May, and then I'll make sure we get all the agreements. Parkside Hills agreements are almost in final forming, and then bring back the one for the Kroll site and hopefully have them all approved in the same night we approve this amendment, which would be May, first meeting in May.
As long as the developer's ready.
Yeah.
To go public.
Yep, and the 25th April 25th is the consultation with the school district.
Coal
and
site
county.
agreement is a complicated agreement.
Yeah. Well, I've done with it, yeah.
A lot of moving parts.
Yes, and yeah, there are.
Okay, so,
All we're doing is setting a date for a public hearing.
And the
Right?
consultation, yes.
We're having all this discussion.
that's what all
over
this is
that.
about.
But I just wanted to say what was in it.
To have this
Yeah,
discussion.
we do this all the time. though.
I'll shut up,
My
never
fault.
mind.
Because I have a
Well,
couple,
we need to know what we're talking about. Okay,
so I guess this is gonna be a difficult something to bring up, but if we're gonna put that Kroll site in Slum and Blight. Some of that same area I was talking about, if we put that in Slum and Blight too, would it give them access to money to improve their property?
If we threw it in as a project, I would assume.
I can amend that. It's easy. I'll just go out on the other street and come back around.
You get what I'm
College
saying?
Street,
Some of
what
them
is-
build stuff sitting
Second
there
Street.
could use some love.
So I could just go College Street to Second, back to Main Street and just have a box.
doesn't bother me.
Okay, I'll put the,
If we
I'll
don't-
do it.
But now
Can
now, is somebody gonna get mad and come in here and kick our windows in because we put their house in?
That's what I was just gonna ask. whether what
Remember,
about
it's,
people that own the
it's not
properties?
well, there can be a couple, but it's just a term for an urban renewal plan. The Slum and Blight designation is, nothing to do with people's houses. It has to do with the old concrete plant and a couple of buildings that look like they're about ready to, yeah, I mean,
I just mentioned if we put some of the buildings we just discussed in with it.
Like one of them's
Not
for
really
sale.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
Does
not
it
really
affect-
necessarily just the concrete plan anymore.
Does it
That's-
affect if someone gets a mortgage and the bank says,
No.
well, it's in Southern Blight?
no, I didn't.
I just want to make sure they actually say one of them is for sale, and if it comes up in the newspaper that this is in the
Right.
slum and
This-
blight part of
This
West
has
Ranch,
nothing
is
to
that,
do with.
is that offer
we're not-
gonna go down 50K?
No, we're not going to.
That way maybe it'll sell.
Yeah, that too.
So,
It is a scary word, but there is no evidence to suggest. I'll give you a good example. The Iowa River Landing was once slum and blight. If you would own land there, you would have been making a killing at this point. So it is a tool
Yes.
that allows us to access funding for a longer period of time. It
Yes.
is, no one likes that word, but I would just say as someone that's from here, I would not use those terms lightly unless I'm confident that it will make improvements to this town.
Explaining that.
Well, I mean, I think
The said individuals who own the property.
we don't want those buildings torn down because nothing will ever go back. So if we can give them a vehicle to help improve the buildings and make them more asset of the community, I think that would work.
Okay, so I think you've got a direction to include
I will include it
to
in,
first, second street.
so it'll be even easier for me to write that legal description.
Second Street to Fourth Street,
Yep.
Main to College,
Yep. Pretty easy.
okay? What do we do with this tonight? Do we,
We just,
we're setting a date. So
I-
we can vote on this.
so I'm gonna change the plan. The plan's ready to go out to the entities. So tomorrow, or Wednesday, it'll go out and I'll make that change to the area.
That doesn't affect, there's no legal description on any of this.
No, I'm not on that resolution. The plan has all the legal descriptions in it.
Okay, we should go ahead and vote that. So, if there's no, any other comments?
Do we have a date? Haven't heard a date.
25th is the
Next
consultation
council
and,
meeting.
and May, the first meeting in May is the public hearing. So there's there's another meeting between these, so give time to review and have your meetings.
Let's go ahead and vote, Leslie, on resolution 22-30.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman.
All right, 22-31, approving a preliminary plat for Parkside Hills, second edition. Motion please. Nick? Jerry seconds. Okay, so this is 2 lots, no, it's 1 lot. 2 lots.
One lot divided into two.
Yep, it's one turned into two.
That's right.
We just split it up.
Chad Cooney is the developer. Any questions, anyone? This is for commercial and retail. There's more room for expansion of parking if need be. Anybody, anything?
Assuming this lot is zoned accordingly.
PV, so yes.
Yeah, we just split it up to clean it up because before we just had multiple buildings going on one big lot. In order to sell those lots off, we'll still have cross ingress egress agreements and cross parking agreements across the whole thing for the access to it, but we're just splitting it off so we can sell individual lots off rather than trying to work through one big lot, so.
And it's necessary for the TIF agreement.
Yes.
They'll make it much easier, yes.
Okay,
Went through P and Z, they didn't have any.
Oh, their only thing was that parking lot, I think was one of them, that if you see, do you have the design of that parking lot on there? If you can get a look at that design of that parking lot, if for any reason this building here on lot 2 would change,
the retail one.
that retail one area, we basically, those 2 long driveways are meant, we can add another 25 spaces. We had them in there to begin with, but we took them out and we can add those 25 spaces in there if we needed. So there's additional 25 spaces.
Okay, I have no other comment. I think this is a fine plan.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we considering Chestnut Drive as part of the parking lot then? I only bring that up because the concern is a private drive. Who's gonna plow it? necessarily?
Oh, that's us.
That's them.
Yeah, we'll have,
That's what I was just.
yep, yeah, we'll have association agreement for it also. Yeah, we'll have an association.
Under the
agreement.
original.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't have
all
a
taken
full
care of.
road that nothing happened with, and then we end up plowing it for whatever reason. But if you're gonna ask.
I guess the question I would have is lot 13, what's the projected outcome of that lot? Will that be affected at all?
No,
by the
we'll
private
actually,
drive?
I think they were submitting, did Ron submit documents today, Leslie,
I
on the
got
next
the
one?
final plat for this one.
For this one? We're moving forward to do the same thing. So basically what we did is we split that one up also. So again, it'll all be wrapped together, but no, it doesn't affect. We kind of planned both of them together to make sure parking worked, buildings worked, and everything worked. And then just kind of went through and found lot lines where we could. That's why this has kind of a different lot line arrangement. So we planned them both together and they're both set. We're just trying to get this one started now. The other one has 3 lots and on it, we have 2 large pads up or hotel pad. And then we had a future grocery store pad if we wanted to, and then left us room depending on the size of those 2. We've kind of been sitting out if somebody comes in and they want a little bit bigger, we can take out of the 3rd lot that's on there and actually reduce the size of that to add a little parking to those 2. So we kind of planned both of them together, or we did plan both of them together, but that other one has not been set because we haven't brought that forward because of the ability to be able to move that. If somebody comes in and wants a little bigger hotel and we need an extra 10 spaces or whatever, so. Yep,
So where were all those driveways? Will they be one driveway? I mean, I'm looking at this as a pretty good sized lot.
Yep.
And this lot that we're approving tonight's got, I mean, it's a private drive, I understand that, but it's got.
So there's a pad here. This will travel through over to here. And then there's an exit over here also. And then this lot's actually sectioned off down here. And then there's 1 square here and 1 square.
Okay,
So there'll be drive all the way through and exiting out there. too.
okay, so there's just gonna be one
Yeah.
on the city street.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good questions.
Roger, the only other comment that P and Z had is they wanted to see some bicycle parking on here.
You'll get some bicycle parking.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Put that in the-
Yeah. I figured Chad would do something.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I forgot to ask around about that. We were looking at that. That was the only question we had. Where we wanted to put it, so it wasn't in traffic.
Okay, I don't have anything else, if anyone. Let's vote. We have a motion to approve, so let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Goodweiler,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean.
Yes.
Okay, consumption of alcohol, resolution 22-32. Allowing the consumption of alcohol on a public street within the city of West Branch from 4 PM on Saturday, June 4th to 12 AM on Sunday, June 5th in the 100 block of North Downey Street for a free community concert put on by the CDG group. So,
So moved.
thank you. Nick seconds.
You can't drink in the street?
Uh,
Really?
that'd be, no,
Beale Street?
public in tax, or open container on public
Container
property
And potentially. public.
and public in tax. It depends on how much you drink.
Depends on
But
how-
now you
depends on
can't
what
on
beer
the
cover
street
you're
under
on.
a special exception.
Okay,
Don't walk across the street at the Iowa.
do I get a
football
motion?
game with
Yeah,
a
so
beer.
you can't do
That's not-
tailgating anymore either. Just answer real quick.
I mean, I knew you
That's
couldn't
not-
sell it in the street, but I mean,
Well, this will allow some
You can do it now. I was David.
libations in the street during this event.
You still could get public in tax if you got two.
Assuming this is all fenced off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will be. Anything else?
Do we need any special considerations from the police force on that evening when we allow this?
they signed off on the,
CDG
Okay,
will,
I understand that, but it was more kind of a question for them. I mean, we can sign off on it, but
well, part of the permit,
You and Eli
Go ahead, Jesse. We lost you.
That wasn't me, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I did touch base with Corey and talked about any concerns that they had. Make sure that we follow all of those. The fencing was the big one, making sure that the street is clearly barricaded so we don't have traffic issues. We're prepared to do anything that you ask of us. I did also inquire about hiring reserve officers. If the council felt like that would be something that we should do, we're willing to do whatever you feel like is necessary to ensure safety.
That was kind of my question for Cory, about the necessity for staying here.
I think, I don't know how many officers are on duty at that time too.
Chief was not as big of a fan of that, just because we don't have a lot of availability. Maybe the county could do it.
I mean, I don't have a large concern, but that's why I asked.
You would have to, yeah.
Police officer check.
Is this a legal age part only, or is it open to kids and all?
It's a community concert, so it'll be open to all. We'll ID at the door and provide wristbands to be able to access the beer area. Well, not the beer area, but to be able to purchase. But ultimately, the IDing requirement falls on the Down Under and Herb and Lou's, who will have the liquor licenses to sell.
Where will the Down Under set up?
Do you have that map? It's a little bit earlier in the packet when we
I can't
looked through there. Herb and Lou's will set up on their side of the street and Down Under will set up across the street.
That's right.
Yeah, by the alley over there.
By the
Okay.
old bank.
Yep. All right, can't wait. So, I lost my place. Any other comments, questions? Let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Miller,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Sexton.
Yes.
Okay, one more entertainment contract, resolution 22-33, approving an entertainment contract for Hoover's Hometown Days in the amount of $250 for the Cassian Rain Band. Motion, please.
So move.
Second.
And they'll be in Heritage Square. Correct? Yeah. Let's go ahead and vote, Leslie.
Councilperson Dean,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
All right, resolution 22-34, approving the preliminary plat for the Meadows Part 3. Motion, please.
So move.
Second.
Okay, this went through P and Z, approved. Much discussion about a sidewalk along Main Street and Cedar Johnson, which is not shown here. I think there has to be a sidewalk along Main Street and Cedar Johnson. There's a crosswalk at the roundabout, which doesn't show up here, but there's plans for a crosswalk. North-south crosswalk on the east side, on the West Branch side.
Sidewalk. Cedar? Looks like there's one to me,
Well,
not on the short spurt from
it's not,
Valley View down to Maine, but it looks like there's a sidewalk from
Right.
Valley View down to wherever the lot is.
go ahead, Brian, what
Yeah.
have you got to say?
You
Brian
bet.
Belk.
Brian Belk, Axiom Consultants, owner KLM, Chris Koflin's here, as well as Gary Worley for the developer applicant. Yeah, as mentioned by the mayor, we did add sidewalk along the west side of Lot 5, as you'll see it between Valley View Drive to the north extent of the project limits or the development limits there on Johnson Cedar. No additional sidewalk was added along Main Street, though I know it was discussed at planning and zoning. The main, a couple reasons for that, I guess. There is sidewalk along both sides of Valley View Drive. So there is connectivity there from there to Johnson Cedar Road and the sidewalk going there to the north. We also added a crosswalk on Main Street to get to the south side of Main Street. That is based on what we know of as a future potential trail that would be on the south side of Main Street. So the idea there, making that connectivity between the trail that's planned, and then you have connection up through Valley View Drive and then to Johnson Cedar to the north. Additionally, as you may be aware, on part 4 of the Meadows, the sidewalk was planned and graded out accordingly for a trail north-south as well from Main Street up through Meadows Part 4, which eventually would get you to Orange Street and further north there. So that was one of the ideas at that time, was to make that connection there, not knowing what the plans are along Main Street. Speculation with widening there and the roundabout and everything else. Similarly with Johnson Cedar, when we don't really know when that project's going to come to fruition, if ever. So we added some sidewalks there, discussed it numerous times so that there's sidewalk connection everywhere, but maybe not exactly everywhere.
Well, this town's been built and we've got a sidewalk problem. And it's because we let things go with no sidewalks. And if we don't require sidewalks, then the taxpayers, everybody else is paying for it later. Or they're walking in the street. There's no, for instance, there's no sidewalk on Main Street in front of lot 3.
Right, that's back in the part 4 discussion. That
Is that
intent
gonna
was
be-
to take Main Street to that north-south connection on the west side of part 4. So on the outlot, the basin there, just east of lot 3 and 4, the main trail that goes north-south there. Otherwise, you would have a sidewalk on the south side of Main Street, north side of Main Street, south side of Valley View Drive, north side of Valley View Drive, with one lot in between. Seemed a little extensive. Particularly knowing a lot of this is still rural cross-section and not knowing when it's going to be urbanized, if ever.
Roger, I'm not understanding where you're expecting the sidewalk to be.
One thing right there. And then down there. It's gonna be a crosswalk crossing Main Street. For,
It goes to nowhere, right?
well, there'll be a trail on the south side. It's gonna be a trail.
When?
There'll be one.
And that's
So
why
we just gonna not do anything now?
That's
Well,
why
no,
we
I
have a
understand, but I
And
think they've
not
done,
plan for it?
I think they
we have a connection to the
have. I
trail.
mean, I think that,
But here's my question, not to get into weeds, but I don't see the necessity for lot 5. Lot 3, when we're about to potentially rip all of that up. Are we gonna
It
make
won't
them?
be installed until we get. My understanding, that side of it wouldn't be installed until Cedar Johnson gets done.
So
So
when
we're
we,
gonna hold them hostage for
Same
5
as
years
we're
to
doing
sidewalk?
for
we do that all the time.
Cedar Johnson.
And you never know if it's going to happen.
so on
I get it, but I know we do it all the time, I'm just saying.
We're doing that all along.
on Cedar's Edge lots there, the agreement says that they're not required to put it in now. It would be put in later. Remember, if the city does a project there, they can always order a sidewalk to be put in under Iowa code. So what we said on those lots is we would let the lots be sold and everything without the sidewalk because it's really a ditch there or something like that. So until the roads made to a urban section, then at that time, we would have the sidewalks put in during that project time.
And the agreement is that whoever owns those
Yeah.
lots at the time of the improvement will put the sidewalks in. at
But
their
there's a
cost.
lot, sidewalk showing on the preliminary plat of Cedar's Edge in the Meadows.
Okay, I see what you're
part.
saying.
There's a sidewalk showing. We don't show a sidewalk here at all.
But
Someone's gonna say, oh, you never showed a sidewalk. So why should we have to, why are you forcing us to put it in now? Because you never showed one. You never planned for
Okay,
one.
so now I understand what you're saying. I thought you were trying to say that,
No, I'm not
Any-
saying it has to be installed now at all.
we could put in the development agreement that when Main Street is fully developed,
That
that
would
we
satisfy.
could put the sidewalk in at that time. Whenever that project goes in, because obviously there's a grade difference on the farther you go to the east, if I remember
And I would say it would still be the same as my agreement.
Right.
Whoever owns the lot at
Exactly
the
the
time is
same.
gonna put.
Yeah, but,
put the
but
sign
they'll
up,
know about it.
Not the
they'll-
developer.
Correct. They'll know about it upfront. We'll just say, and so if the developer builds on lot 3, we give them a release for the improvements and just say, the sidewalk will be put in later.
I guess the only question I have is the sidewalk along lot 1 and 2 on the north side of Main Street, so the south side of lot 1 and 2. What exactly is the point if you do have a dedicated trail on the south side, you have connection to that trail, and then you have
No,
sidewalk
you
going
don't,
up
you don't
Valley
have a
View Drive?
connection from Cedar Johnson Road.
What's that?
If you're walking, if
You
the
We do it.
future sidewalk gets installed on Cedar Johnson Road on the east side.
Yep.
There's no connection to get across that roundabout.
Yes. There's crosswalks in the planned roundabout.
Of the roundabout, yes, but there's no sidewalk on this development to get to that crosswalk on lot 1. If we don't show a sidewalk there, the crosswalk, which will be built on the roundabout, won't have any sidewalks to it.
Yeah, but you could
Which
put it on
side?
you could put it on the
Lot
west side of
one, so-
one, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on the south side of one.
Yeah, it does.
No,
Yeah, that's-
nobody's
that's
even
what I'm
gonna
saying.
use that.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't predict that. You can't say that.
Well,
But
because
what, Roger, you.
We
you
got
have it on
people
the-
wheelchairing up to the Interstate 80 saying, we didn't think there'd be people in wheelchairs going up to Interstate 80 to McDonald's.
But you have two options there. You have the sidewalk on Valley View Drive or the south side of Main Street, which is the dedicated trail. So why would anybody else need another third sidewalk right there? You have access to everything you need.
You go to the trail on the south
Except-
side, you can go.
What if you're gonna,
And that's why you dedicate a trail, so for safety.
what if you're gonna
purposes,
ride a bike to Iowa City
You're on the south side trail.
and you're on the north side of the street?
You're also not supposed to bike on sidewalks, so if you're on the sidewalk, you're illegally biking. You're supposed to be on the
But then
road.
there's a
You
crosswalk
can
there.
go for hours.
I mean,
Did
that's
you
what
know-
Herbert
The
Hoover's.
crosswalk
has
is
the trail on
200
the south
yards
side going all the
down
way
to the
back
east.
to Iowa City. You created it out.
Right. I get that, I guess. I was talking about here.
So there's pencil one in.
Alls I know is this town's been built with no sidewalks in so many subdivisions. We had to put a sidewalk in at McDonald's because we failed to plan for a sidewalk. And then later on, I don't know if we paid for that or McDonald's paid for that.
McDonald's put 10 grand up.
10 grand.
I don't know if it paid for the sidewalk.
I doubt
Probably not.
But here's another case, if we don't pencil in a sidewalk at some point, we're dropping the ball.
So you're saying lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3
We should show a
should have a
sidewalk.
sidewalk all the way through there, and then it goes
Yeah.
nowhere because we don't have a sidewalk from
Across
lot
farm.
3 going east to Dawson.
There could be when that,
Right.
when there could be.
What we could do is that, I'm assuming that someday we'll have to redo all of Main Street there, which would, at that time, when we make it a urban
Well,
section.
that's city
there.
property there anyway,
Yeah,
isn't it? It
Correct.
will be
but we'd have to put the sidewalk in at that point.
east of lot 3.
Yeah, the Dawson and out, those all have,
I meant lots 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5. so I meant-
right, I believe, unless it's multifamily residential. Correct? Multifamily residential or commercial on those lots?
4 and 5, 1 and 2.
RB1, residential business.
Yep.
So I guess my question would be if, to me, it seems like the goal of 1 and 2 are to be front facing to Valley View Drive, or is that not?
They're not gonna have access on Main Street there. They're gonna have access off Valley View Drive, correct, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
1 and 2.
Or 1 and 2 meant that, their front access is gonna be on Valley View Drive, not on Main.
Right, which is why, that's why we're saying the sidewalk.
Which is why they're not putting a sidewalk south of 1 and 2, because otherwise you're gonna be.
Just because there's no store access there doesn't mean there won't be, want to be pedestrians that may want to.
Where are they going?
The one thing
To
I'll,
the high school?
I'll
What if you live at Bickford and you want to walk to the high school?
Well, then you can walk down Cedar Johnson and walk down.
What if
Valley
you
View
want to
Drive.
walk to the baseball field? The current Lions Field.
So
Lions
hypothetically,
baseball
guys,
field.
They said there's gonna be a trail on the south side.
How are you gonna cross the road if there's no sidewalk
There is.
on lot one?
You go down Valley View Drive and cross it lot 2 and 3.
man, we don't know what's gonna be there. What if they're apartment buildings or something like that? I'm telling you, them people they're like cattle. They're not gonna walk on the sidewalk all the way around. They're gonna cut through the back there. They're gonna shimmy down a hill. And they're gonna dump out on the
I don't
street.
see the harm of just.
Thank you.
So if you, in my opinion, what I've heard is someday there might be a assisted living out there, right?
Yes, someday.
Maybe. So I myself would not cross the street to get to the trail to walk into town. I'd stay on that side, and if I had to, I'd walk on the shoulder of the road. So I do agree there needs to be a sidewalk. But the problem is, once you get to Dawson going east, there's no sidewalk.
That can be worked on at a later date. That may be worked on. I mean, Hugh Maher's is the worst part of that.
Well, hold on,
That's right.
Roger, though, but right over there where Furman built them buildings, we even got the money for the sidewalk. And it- 15 years later, there's still no sidewalk.
For where?
Townhomes or.
Yeah, you know why? Because we didn't make the developer put in a sidewalk at the time. We just
We
collected
should.
$10,000 and said, oh, you guys do it later.
You can't cross the creek there anyway, so that's on the city to put a
Right.
crossing across the creek on that side of the road.
Crossings happen.
So, I mean,
And then there's
Yeah,
an old
I
folks
know.
home right there. There's no sidewalk in front of it.
Like I said, we had
I
a sidewalk
I
problem.
understand that.
So
If this roundabout wasn't going in, Roger, would that sidewalk be a problem? It hasn't been in the last 6 years
the sidewalk where?
on Main Street. Only reason you're wanting the sidewalk to go nowhere is because you got a $2 million
No, it's not a sidewalk
roundabout
to nowhere,
that's
Gary.
creating the problem.
It's a sidewalk to everywhere.
We are giving the sidewalks to the people that are going to use it. I'm developing that ground for my people. I'm designing sidewalks for my
And I'm
people.
planning for my people.
Then why don't you do it down going into town on the other side? Why do I take
We're
a
not discussing
sidewalk?
that.
Why do I take a sidewalk down the north side on my side of Main and it goes to the to the detention pond and it goes nowhere else? What? It goes nowhere else and you say, well, that's the city property and
So that's a
sometime,
good reason not to put in a sidewalk.
sometime it will go
Somewhere.
in. You've got the money. Why
Let's
don't you
not
have
put
it
any
there?
sidewalks in because they're not gonna go anywhere.
Well, you know.
Is that what you're
you-
saying?
I'm saying you use it, just like Colton was saying, they aren't gonna shimmy down around the hill. They're gonna go down Park View and across. And you were telling me that everybody needs to use these sidewalks. Well, I sat out here 2 days watching the high school kids. Wednesday, 1 kid. Friday, 3 kids. All they're coming in their cars. Nobody's walking and the sidewalks are there.
So that's a reason not to put sidewalks in?
just
Are you-
saying.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying, if it wasn't a roundabout going in, that would not be a question. When it was a cul-de-sac up there, it was not a question. It went right down where, I don't even know what, Grantview Road or whatever goes to Maine, went across. It's no different. But now you got this cul-de-sac, who knows when it'll go in, and it's becoming a problem. That should be an urban problem. That's a city problem to put those sidewalks in on your new road on
Thank
Main
you very
Street.
much for making it a city problem. I'm trying to solve the problem.
Okay, so question as I drove around town. You put a lot of money on East College Street. Redid East College Street. Nice curb and gutter, nice sidewalks on one side. Why didn't you make them go to the other side?
This is a $2 million bridge.
Well, you go across and then it flips to the other side. But why, you put in brand new, I assume the city bought the the driveways and redid the driveways and sidewalks. Why didn't the property owners pay for those? Why does the developer have to do everything that should have been done 15, 20 years ago? That's what I'm asking.
Because
It
the
goes
public
nowhere.
Shouldn't have to pick up the tab.
Who, you
We
think
built a
my,
side- We had to build a sidewalk up here, I want quarter of a mile of sidewalk.
are my
Because the
people,
developer at the time didn't put in a sidewalk.
are my
So all
people,
the taxpayers paid for it.
are my people in that development, you got the road that goes to Cedar Johnson and it goes down to Maine. Are my people gonna need that sidewalk?
Gary, they're not gonna.
I'm
be your
just
people,
asking.
They're gonna be my people.
You said for these
When you
people,
get
the
this
developer,
Developed and sold. They're my people too.
Hey, well, what about, I mean, let me ask you a question here.
you know,
We're not
I've been after
Gary-
this project more than you guys.
Gary, this is
I'm
not,
done.
Gary, it's
I'm
not
not dealing
appropriate to be talking back there. You know that. You've done this enough.
I know. I'm
Thank you.
sorry, Kevin.
The
I
whole
appreciate
scheme
it.
of the whole project, Gary, a future sidewalk that you're not even gonna pay for is pretty cheap.
What sidewalk?
I just
I'm
want
not
it drawn
paying
in
for?
here for the future. You don't even have to put it in until the street gets done. And
I'm still
when you
paying-
sell the
Why do you
lots,
say that? I'm still paying for it. Either I pay it now or I pay it later. You keep telling me I'm not paying for it, but I am paying for it. I'm just giving you an escrow or I'm putting it in.
well, every house that gets sold, every lot, the homeowner who builds
So-
that house.
Is your
pays for
building,
it.
is your building going to face north? Right? Your building, the front of your building will face north.
Lot 1 and 2.
Correct, on 1 and 2. Correct. And 3 will face to the west.
So why didn't we make the school put a sidewalk in with the new school addition?
Well, they did.
Huh? They did? By the softball field and
No, not there.
they got it?
I did. They may have to eventually, yes, because it's gonna be a trail. So either they're gonna pay for it or the city's gonna pay for it or we share it. So, that's
I
another.
ain't paying for it.
We'll get the school
I'm not
help.
paying for it. The school's got $22 million. They can pay for it.
Well, we're not here to talk about.
See, that's the problem. We didn't make them put that in the school. Now he's trying to develop across the street, which the buildings are gonna face north. So why would you put sidewalks on the backside of your building that goes nowhere?
Well, I have to kind of argue with that because in my development, my lots on the north side of the development have sidewalks on the front side and eventually we'll have them on the back side.
But yours is residential. This is commercial, right?
We actually don't know what it's gonna be.
Why does that matter?
So you're gonna make, so up here, you're gonna make them put sidewalks on the backside of their buildings?
There's not a
It's running
street there.
the street.
He's got double-sided lots, right?
That's part of the awkwardness of where at least he's got a corner lot. That's
Yeah. 2 street frontages.
I don't know why it's so difficult. I really don't, Gary. Why?
Yeah, you know
I
what?
just don't get it.
I'm very, I don't know what I want to say.
I mean, you're showing it on lot 5.
I'm trying to
Why are you
do.
trying to eliminate it there? Because that goes to nowhere.
Right here.
It's got to cross the
back to
creek,
this one.
which
Because there's connectivity through Valley View Drive.
You wanted,
Okay.
you wanted us
connectivity,
to
that's
put it
good.
in there.
So there's connectivity to Main Street too.
P and
Right down
Z,
here.
at the P and Z meeting, you wanted that
There's
going up on
connectivity to
5.
get to that trail across the street.
Why is there not
Pardon me?
a sidewalk?
To the south side of Main Street,
Right,
It's
If
a
you want,
trail.
if you want to do that,
a major trail.
right.
why
And you're
don't we make
proposing
it
no
all
sidewalk
out
to
here?
connect to that trail. That's
From-
at this major intersection here.
From
That's what I'm saying.
Grandview Drive or
We're
whatever
gonna
it
do
is,
it for one,
down
we're gonna
around
do it for them all.
cul-de-sac. Or down around the roundabout. We've got one along on lot 5. You wanted it put in there to escrow. So
Looks
we're
like
doing it
So
Looks
what's the
like there's one
difficulty of
on-
doing it on lot 1 and 2 and 3?
on Main Street
Yeah.
because I've already got them up on the street that we're putting in, 2 of them.
As you should.
Right. Why do I need to take potential traffic that may or may not happen from north of us on
May
Cedar
or may not
Johnson?
happen. That's good. It may or it may
May or may
not,
not happen.
but it may.
When it may, then worry about
And
it.
it might.
Then worry about it.
I'm worried about it now,
As a city
Gary.
project.
This is the time to worry about
Okay, then why did we not make it? You're gonna have residential down here on Parkside, right? Or up on the hill. You're gonna have residential down here. So why did we not put a sidewalk on the backside of all this?
Because there's no street.
It's no street.
it. There's no street.
There's
there,
an
Joey.
exit ramp right
It's an
there.
exit ramp.
So we're gonna,
Do I got a motion to approve this?
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on.
I can't.
So vote
My-
your conscience, I
my-
guess.
My thoughts are,
um,
I understand what you're saying. I kind of understand what Gary's saying.
Right,
Way I'm kind of understanding this, you're asking Gary to pay for the street up front, which to me is on the property owner that's gonna own that lot, not on Gary.
That's what I'm saying. Gary's not gonna pay for it.
You're talking sidewalk, right?
I'm
Sidewalk.
talking about sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sidewalk. He said street.
sorry.
Oh.
So to me, the compromise is show the sidewalk. But then when the lot's sold, whoever buys the lot is responsible for that sidewalk when the improvements to Main Street and Cedar Johnson Road are done. When the sidewalk's there, Gary's not paying for it. Is that what,
Makes sense. When it's ready to go.
yeah, but you're not paying for it, you're not escrowing it. It's all on the property owner that buys that
Just
lot.
like every sidewalk in front of every house.
Unless Gary still owns this lot in the timeline that
Then Gary should pay for the sidewalk.
then Gary has to put it in. And what is that, 3 years, 5 years? What's our,
Well, 5 is usually
We,
developer.
we can, after 5, we can make them put it in. That doesn't mean we do make them put it in.
so after 5, and if Gary still owns these 2 lots in 5 years, then he would be responsible, to put the sidewalk in, even though it's not been developed.
If the council so wanted it that.
Sure.
I mean, the other thing you gotta think about, whether you ever annex to the west here and have people coming from that direction, or something goes on to the south here, but so you want to basically written like the Cedars Edge agreement, that when the road improvements get done, then the sidewalk gets done, and whoever owns it at that time, we'll do a release for the lot so you can sell it. That'll just be something that goes with it.
I mean, this is, what Gary's doing is putting the street in, and he's got these plotted out.
Right.
There's no sidewalk gonna go in there until somebody builds something on that piece of property. This is when the sidewalk should go in. And at that time, depending on how far Cedar Johnson Road goes north, I mean, if he sells that lot, somebody builds on it within the next couple of years, then that sidewalk should go in. at that time. And that would be on the person that, or the company that buys that lot.
And I'm assuming if we're gonna make them put a lot on lot 3, that the city should put their sidewalk on the lot with the detention basin, so it actually connects to someplace at the same time.
That would be the way I would look at it
Road
too.
gets improved.
I mean, we're requiring developers to do this. The city should step up and do their part too.
Did it on Downey
Correct.
Street. We connected.
We can, as a city, require developers to do their part, and then we don't do our part.
Kind of silly to have 2 sidewalks sitting there, and big gap on our own property.
Especially when we're making a big deal out of having sidewalks.
Okay, so I'd like to propose we could approve this pending how I do it.
So if you want to prove it like it is drawn up right now, which has a sidewalk on the west side of lot 5, correct? and both sides of Valley View Drive. And then if everybody's amenable, it'd be subject to an agreement that says the sidewalk on Main Street would be put in at some future date, and it would be the responsibility of whoever owns the lot at the time.
So we have the developers agreement yet to come.
We'd have to do a developer's agreement on this to, yes, we would do that in the,
Next meeting or two
next
meetings.
meeting or next 2 meetings.
I'd rather see the sidewalk shown on a plan.
I'm just,
It's,
I mean, the
It's just-
council has the right to order anybody to put a sidewalk, and I understand what you're saying, Roger. We could, even if it wasn't on the plan, but if it's in the development agreement, it's actually going to be in their abstract, so somebody would see that, agreement, just like on Cedar's Edge. Just so every abstract, when those lots sell, has that agreement in. So it's up, so if you want to approve it like it's written here, and then subject to the Main Street sidewalks agreement, I think we could do that. And then we would bring that, we're not gonna look at the final plat until we have the developer's agreement locked down.
Roger, before you entertain a motion, we're gonna have to address the awkwardness
gotta
of the
talk
turn
about
lane.
another awkward
Yeah.
elephant in the room.
Yep. Okay.
We're gonna
Turn
have to
lane.
address that. So,
It's called turn lane. So, the roundabout that's coming will be wide enough for a center lane. It just doesn't go far enough east. That project starts, well, it stops at some point near the old high school driveway. Turn lane. Are we requiring one? Yes or no? That's-
No.
That's the first thing we gotta answer.
On Main Street,
On Main Street,
requiring one from you.
pardon.
it would be all, if we're gonna make Worley put it in, we're gonna extend it to Dawson, and
Dawson.
the school's gonna
That's,
put theirs in
at
too.
some point eventually,
So we're
How are we gonna
talking
pay
about,
for
we're
it?
talking about making them
TIF it,
put it in,
for
or we're
one thing.
talking about us putting it
Okay, so
Um,
in? Who are we
question I
making
have
pay for this?
is gonna be, there's a traffic study done 2014, 15.
MPO did one in 2014, and there was one done a couple years ago for the school. when they did their expansion.
Which did not include a roundabout, did not include 25 mph going into the roundabout and then from the roundabout on into town, right? So I guess my thought is we should update the traffic study with all the new improvements and the speed limits to determine whether that roundabout or that turn lane needs to still be in them.
Well, there's a turn lane needs to be there now. And that's before you even had all them people and an extra,
Yeah, we needed a
And
turn
then-
lane just from the
yeah,
from the previous expansion from this. This is just adding more vehicle traffic.
and an extra entrance
I don't know how we would get away with
that was never designed to be there.
Yeah, so that traffic
I
study
understand.
is just for Dawson, and that additional traffic needed a turn lane. This is adding even more.
Okay,
Especially if there's businesses in there, you would assume that, I mean, I'm not a traffic study analyst, but if you had a bunch of businesses, that would mean more traffic on
More
Main
left
Street
turns.
than there even was before we even did the traffic study for Dawson.
Here's the only sticky part about it is that there's a turn lane needs to be put on that road. And he's creating the need for it in front of his, but the need's already there. So it's unfair to say you're paying for a turn lane when we need, again, we dropped the ball before and didn't have the turn lane put in when it should have been put in the
well,
school.
I'm not sure Gary has to pay 100% of it either.
No,
It's typical.
absolutely not.
We may have to pay for the lion's share. I think it should be split in some sort of way. Because the depot station there will create a lot of turning traffic. And that's the developer's plan.
One thing to keep in mind when we're talking about both the roundabout and the turn lane is that that will require some additional right of way on the north side. So if we plat this, there's a line that they've drawn on here. It's magenta line that's dashed that goes around, and you can see the corner of lot 1 overlays onto the roundabout area. We would need to have that area as part of the right of way in order to get the improvements done, both for the turn lane and for the roundabout. So
Dash line, Dave?
yes, it's kind of a faint dash line.
Red
It's labeled
dash
as
line, right?
G
I see that. Yep.
dash with 2 dots. It's hard to see the dots on here, but yeah, the dash line is there on the south side of lots 1 and 2. It follows the curvature of the roundabout as it goes around the corner of lot 1.
That,
So we would need more easement.
We would need road right of way through there, which would impact those lot sizes. So as we're talking about the cost associated with the turn lanes, there's also an impact to the buildable lots in that area if we decide to do the turn lane, and there's one regardless because of the roundabout on lot 1.
On 3 or
Along 2. And I
1,
believe
2,
it
and 3.
does, yeah, it's on lot 3 for a short
Yeah.
period as well.
talking about a turn lane. From
As you exit the
East to west.
roundabout, you would be able to turn left into there, and there would be a couple of stalls or a queue area for people that come out of the roundabout and would have to wait for the traffic coming the opposite direction to clear before they turn.
So it even a little bit of 2.
What you don't want is for that traffic heading westbound to cause the eastbound traffic to stop and then clog up the roundabout. So you have the ability for those people to turn to get out of the way.
So here's my question. So we just had a big discussion about an improved plat for, I can't remember.
Parks
the name.
areas.
No, for farther down where they want to put the clinic and potential buildings. Yeah, Dawson Plaza. I don't remember having a conversation about making them pay for a turn lane to their increased traffic. Because that's gonna increase traffic down Dawson, isn't it? So how can we sit here and tell them they have to pay for a turn lane, but
So
we don't go after?
Nick, here's the
performance
whole
and pay
big
for it?
deal. This was never designed to have that entrance come out on Main Street. It was
Neither was
designed to
Dawson.
be,
So why
yes,
don't
it
we have to-
wasn't. We designed it. It was designed like that a long time ago when they put it in.
Yeah, Dawson's always been there. This was designed to be a cul-de-sac years and years ago.
This was always supposed to be a cul-de-sac. That's the only thing that changes why this has to happen. Is
Why
that
does
now
the
you're,
cul-de-sac change it whether or not? now
Because
they
there's
do
no
drive
entrance on
connection?
Main Street. Now there's an
Oh,
entrance
cul-de-sac
on the
out.
Main Street.
Cul-de-sac was off Cedar Johnson.
That's right.
so the only reason why there needs to be a turn lane, if it was still a cul-de-sac, we wouldn't even be having this discussion.
Well, you're gonna have to put a turn lane off Cedar Johnson also then.
No, not nearly the amount of traffic.
No,
Why not? Because
you
you're gonna
don't-
have traffic flow that way.
But look at all the different entrances you have and they them line up and all right there.
Not nearly
And
as
we
much
already
traffic.
have a traffic issue there.
Certain times of day.
Right.
So you're telling me we have the turn lane for Dawson paid for then by somebody?
No.
Exactly. So how can we make him pay for it if we can't even confirm we have payment for Dawson?
This is specifically creating the need for a turn lane.
And you don't think the
This-
stuff on
this
Dawson
outflow
specifically created it
onto-
as well?
So Nick, are you saying we shouldn't make him put it in and then?
I'm
when
saying we should put it in. I'm not saying I don't think he should have to pay for it. We didn't make people on Dawson pay for it. How could we sit here and tell these people rightfully they have to pay for it? We couldn't sit here and hold our own on the Dawson turn lane.
Well, Nick, you were the same one that says that we shouldn't have made the school help pay for it. We should pay for it. Where do you think this money's coming from, man, to put all these
I
streets
say we
in?
shouldn't make the school pay for it.
You said the school wasn't
I
in
didn't
the
think
road.
we should, I didn't think we should have to make the school pay for the brunt of it. Because they're not in the road.
We
business.
split it 50-50 was the plan.
They didn't, not anything to do with 50/50.
I didn't like it. but-
Exactly. So it wasn't the plan.
So the red dashed line, why, we knew the roundabout. We knew the roundabout's coming.
So here's the
To
deal. though.
answer
How
your
can we sit
finance
here-
question, to answer your finance question, we could have the developer put it in. We could TIF it with rebates in an area where he could make X amount of percent in profit, and we charge an X amount of, whether it's a school, whether it's KLM, whether it's Worley, well, it's a city. We can figure out the finance stuff later. What we need to know now is if the turn lane is going to be required or not, because that's going to affect if Worley can even move on. There are things we can do where we can TIF and rebate each developer later as development happens. But I think what we really need for sure is if the turn lane's going to be required or not.
Would say yes, it does, but that doesn't change my opinion on the financial matter.
We can discuss the finance at a separate meeting. Because that's going to be more than one meeting.
Does any one of
Because
us,
that's the other thing too, is if we require it, who says they even want to move forward anymore? Because we're gonna take a chunk out of their land. I mean, we don't own it. So we can sit here till we're blue in the face and say, hey, we want to turn land there. But ultimately, I don't think we own that.
We've been talking to him about this for 3 months and it was always kind of laid out there from day one.
roundabout was
I
coming
get it, but I'm just
when we
saying.
first talked months ago. The roundabout was coming.
Well, the roundabout, not a turn lane.
The turn lane was discussed.
It was talked about
right
on-
up,
from
pretty
the
much
very
up
beginning,
front, yeah.
day one. It was talked about. Yeah, it was. Oh, sorry. I think we need to plan for a turn lane. If we fail to plan for the turn lane, we may fail. We may fail.
I agree on. I think we
Need to plan for
need
a
to.
turn lane.
I mean, we'll do it. I think we-
So how does that
we can
affect
debate the
this
payments
preliminary
later
plan?
on.
Because it's.
Is there more
We could
land needed
approve
for the
this.
turn lane, Dave?
That's shown on here roughly based on the grading plan that was provided with the school turn lane. Roundabout.
So they made adjustments to their lot number 2 and according to that?
No, they haven't made it.
Yep.
So then how can we say we talked about it from the beginning? It's not even on here.
I don't know.
We're at final plat. We
Sorry.
talked about it from the
Okay.
beginning. How is it not on here already?
Preliminary plan.
I don't know.
Or preliminary?
The impact is shown as that red dash line for the conversation.
So do we have to go back and ask for that property? If we approve this,
Right, and the reason I bring that up is as we start talking about cost share, if there's property being dedicated towards this project, there's a cost associated with that, so that should be factored into this. That either the city has to go out and purchase the land, or if they donate the land in exchange for part of that cost share, that should be in the conversation.
Reason why the turn lane is not in there is because there's been a lot of awkwardness in this conversation, and I was not 100% comfortable giving Worley one direction or another, because I assumed this would be the conversation. And so, to be clear, it was discussed. I did not force it in this plat because I figured I didn't have a 4-1 support or a 5-0 support from the council. And that's just part of me being new and not knowing how to represent all 5 of you. But it was discussed, and the reason why it's not in there, that's my call.
okay, I'm trying to figure out how to move forward. I mean, I'd like to keep this moving. So if we approve this, we can throw in the sidewalk into some sort of developers agreement.
We can't do anything about turn lane because it's not on the agenda.
Plat is, and you can make modifications.
Preliminaries, I think. Make modifications before the plan.
So explain to me why you need a turn lane off of Main Street, but you're not gonna need a turn lane on the east side of Cedar Johnson Road into that.
I'll have Dave answer that.
It has a
He's talking about
fraction of
that.
the amount of traffic. on Cedar
Because what?
Johnson. There's far less traffic on Cedar Johnson than there is.
You wanna re-ask that to Dave?
All I keep getting told is there's so much traffic on Cedar Johnson that we had to do this roundabout. So, and it's only gonna grow, is what I keep getting told. But now you're telling me there's not enough traffic on Cedar Johnson to require a turn lane into this development to the east. This close. It's even closer to the roundabout than what it is. So if you're coming from town and going out to the club or whatever,
Jerry and Roger and I are going.
Jody, there's a couple of things that
All
are
at the same
different
time.
on that northbound. First thing is the through traffic really dictates the warrant for turn lanes. Second is you're looking at a right turn on to Valley View as you're headed north, whereas you're looking at a left turn, having to wait for the opposing traffic to cross as you're headed eastbound on Main Street. So
okay,
there's
but we
different-
have no idea what is ever going to go to the west. If you're talking about future, right? You have no idea what's going to the west. So you put development into the west, then what's gonna happen?
If they put that close enough that it requires a turn lane there, they'll have to have that.
And then the city's gonna get stuck with a turn lane into this development to the east. You keep talking future.
I don't know how to respond.
So what are you suggesting that we make them?
I have no idea.
Make them put a turn lane on that chip and seal piece of crap road that's got ditches that are 10 foot deep on each side?
No, you write a developer's agreement like you just did for getting for the sidewalk. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know what to do about a sidewalk.
Okay, so let's just focus on Main Street right now. Turn lane on Main Street.
I'm not agreeing anything that, no, I'm not gonna agree on something when you're only focusing on Main Street. Because Cedar Johnson is also involved in this. So you want me to approve something right now for Main Street, but maybe, 10 years from now, we might have development on the west side. Oh, we're gonna have to put in a turn lane. Or
Well, no,
our
not-
council, our
not
council 10
theoretically.
years ago didn't think about the future.
Not theoretically, because if the development happens on the west side, it's that development that's causing the need for a turn lane, because we didn't need one before.
Well, we sit here and talk, we're totally blue in the face that Johnson Cedar Road needs to be redone because we have hundreds of people at the golf course in the event center. So all these people leave 450 or how many fit in the event center and they all want to get gas. What the hell do we do?
To our
I mean,
point,
It's not any
there's,
more
Well, there's
ridiculous
not
than
that many
requiring it
people
down
there.
there. We're gonna make for one, I'm paying for two.
there are
I mean, it's all
things that
ridiculous.
can be done where you have a street connection fee, much like you do with a water and a sewer connection fee that could be discussed in the future. So when issues like this arise, we have a separate pot of money. But I don't think that's anything we're gonna solve today. But there is that option for the future.
I'd like to get Gary moving forward. Keep him moving.
Excuse me. John English here from West Range.
John?
How much would it cost to put a sidewalk across, I mean, the whole length of that to the Johnson Cedar line?
More than you think.
I mean, just $500,000, $50,000? I mean, can you give me an estimate of how much this 4-foot wide sidewalk is?
Would have to be at least 5.
Well, can you estimate it, what it would cost?
Not right now, I can't.
What we're.
I don't know where you're
arguing
talking.
about?
We already hashed out the
You're
sidewalk.
talking about one use.
1 and 2.
So it's 510 feet.
Dave's got it.
He's probably done enough sidewalks. He can probably give us a quick. Could be 30 bucks a square foot.
I'm just wondering, you know, for someone reading the
Square
newspaper,
foot.
what we're talking about, how much it costs to run a sidewalk all the way across the north side of the out to the Cedar line.
It was like $10 a linear foot, isn't it? 20 grand.
The issue here is there's a lot of speculation going on, so you can't just put a sidewalk in right now. It's a rural ditch
Right.
cross section.
Can't.
So there's a lot more that goes with it than
That's
just
why it's
putting down pavement as a sidewalk.
I know. Yep.
So just want to make that clear.
So-
And it's just like the
Thank
speculation
you,
on the
Brian.
roundabout.
So while
That's
you're
gonna
up there,
happen.
Brian, I understand that there's and I know there's a hill that pretty much divides these two lots. Pretty good sized hill.
You're talking north-south, Jerry, like between 1 and 5, you're saying? or-
No, between 1 and 2.
Oh.
Pretty good.
Uh,
If a sidewalk had to be put in on 1 and 2, there's a pretty good hill there that
One's pretty flat.
should
two
be
gets-
taken
two
into
gets hill.
consideration if the sidewalk is required down the road in the design developing of those lots. So there's
Yeah.
not, so there's not a 10-foot concrete wall or block wall that has to be put in.
Right. Yeah.
To make that sidewalk work.
And the other reason, we showed this line on here to give you an idea of the land that, yeah, would have to get purchased in some form on lots 1, 2, and 3. And it's still been ever changing. We get a different design on this roundabout all the time. So you still don't know what it is. So that's why
All
it
right.
can't also be incorporated into a preliminary plat when we don't know what the lines are or when it's going to happen for that matter. Same with Johnson Cedar. As we do a connection there, if we have a connection on Johnson Cedar or Main Street, then we have to go tear out that axis again later when you do those projects.
So Dave, Cedar Johnson Road and the roundabout is improved. Does that go to Valley View Drive? Past Valley View Drive?
I believe it stops short of Valley View Drive there, but I'll have to, as Brian mentioned, get the final design on this and see how it relates to this. We didn't go too far beyond the end of return, once we ended the taper on the roundabout, simply to try to keep the cost down. There is a little bit of a transition to go back to the existing road, so there's some asphalt wedge in there. But I don't believe it goes concrete all the way to that intersection.
So are we curb and guttering all of that? Is that getting curb and gutter?
As you recall, the side that's on the county, they didn't want to do curb and gutter. They wanted to keep that rural section. They wouldn't go for the upgrades. We attempted to get them to do that. So the city's part does have curb and gutter. The east side of Johnson Cedar around to the north side of Main Street, that is curb and gutter.
So there's gonna still be a ditch. Somehow that connection is gonna have to be storm sewer, I'm assuming somehow.
Somewhere around lot 2. Well, maybe.
And for them to set elevation for Valley View Drive connecting to Cedar Johnson Road. They need some kind, they need some kind of a,
There's a preliminary plan and profile that was provided for that area.
Okay.
And that's roughly what the plan would be when we go through to do the reconstruction. And that's how they established the roundabout elevation, how we established the Valley View tie-in, and also the driveways as we go further up Cedar Johnson Road.
okay, so they have that, they,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, I don't know where I'm at.
Sidewalk.
I thought the
separate.
sidewalk was a done deal. Round up the turn lane. I don't know why we couldn't approve this tonight. The turn lane, it's still gonna be an issue. Can we approve this tonight without causing problems for ourselves?
Well,
Or
The law says if you approve a preliminary plat and they take a final plat, that's basically the same thing. You can't disapprove it, but what, I mean, if we need more right of way for the turn lane, that's a, maybe what we should do, and I'm just saying this out loud, is we could table it and have an agreement on all this issue so that we know everybody's on the same page, developer, city council, that we know what we're voting on, because I'm not quite sure that we're voting on everything. You know, some people may not like this, some people may vote for this. It's only 2 weeks. I would rather have everything lined up in writing so that you know what you're voting on, they know what they're agreeing to. And the plat that they bring back, whatever, is the fine. I mean, it either has a turn lane with the right of way correct in it, or it does not. And then we can decide, you know, whatever we're doing with we have the right of way issue to discuss with them. We have the turn lane, the sidewalks. We got 3 issues there. So that would be my suggestion. Is that okay with the developer or no? I would,
Table
what
it
I'm
for 2
asking
weeks.
for is to table it, and then we all have an agreement that you guys agree to, they agree to, so that we all know what we're agreeing to, so that we don't have a discussion or something later. Be 2 weeks. I can get you guys something out here the next day or 2.
My question, City.
Okay, I'm just throwing it out there, Gary.
I'm sitting here listening, turning lane. The Roundabout's only coming out of the corner 200 feet. And Valley View drives down 300 feet. What do you do in that 100 feet where it goes from virtually 4 lanes down into 2 lanes? It's gonna go 100 feet. I'm gonna put a turning lane, which requires another 16 feet. So we add this in, and then 5 years from now, if Cindy and her Juan comes through and Main Street ever gets done as 3 lanes, now you're tearing out what I
No.
just put in.
This would be the final version. It would be, a turn lane would be
But how,
the final version of the street.
so I'm not gonna put a turning lane in until the street is actually taken from the roundabout down past Dawson, is drawn in right there. As you guys have presented to me, from the roundabout down past Dawson, 3 lanes. 2 lanes and a turning lane. Past the school, which is the biggest problem here, and we didn't really talk about that, past Dawson. So if that doesn't take place, you get the roundabout in 2 years and you don't have the money to go down into town at the Ford garage or whatever, you're gonna have a section of brand new going east. It's gonna go down to the 2 old crappy lanes. Then it's gonna be added 16 feet, I'm assuming would be what Dave requires, to the north onto property that hasn't even decided where it's going, widened out past Grant or Valley View, and then back down to 2 lanes into town. Then when you do come in and you put that turning lane all the way through, and the reason they want to go to the north is because it's less material to tear out for $100,000. I don't understand. Now you're coming right back and you're tearing $100,000 of a turning lane out to add it through. Let's put the 100,000 and the other lane that goes in front of the school and call it done. So I know where I'm going. And as far as the property you guys are taking from me on lots 1 and 2, we didn't know this until a couple of weeks ago when we got the plat, because the roundabout had turned to the north. We've never seen that. We never talked about that ground being taken away, except for on the roundabout on the corner of number 1. So now I'm being implemented or being affected on 1, 2, and 3. And I don't know where I'm at. I don't know if that's where it's gonna be. Same with Cedar Johnson. Well, we're gonna take it down, but we're not really sure. We're gonna cut it down 3 feet or we're gonna add it. Well, what do I do with my sidewalk? We've got a cross section. Well, we assume that's gonna be it. An assumption, you know what that means. So I got a lot of crap happening here. 20 pounds of crap in a 5-pound can. And you wonder why I'm frustrated. And every time I turn around now, 2 months ago, we talked nothing about the sidewalk on Main Street. I was fine going up the other way. And now all of a sudden in 2 weeks, we're talking about this addition of sidewalk, which requires more of the hill to be removed. And yes, back to this gentleman, how much does it cost? We're figuring probably 200,000 or more to put that sidewalk on Main. $200,000 by the time we cut the bank out and you guys move your road to the right
You
or
build
to
a
the north.
development, you got a plan for sidewalks.
If I knew where I was going, if I knew from the get-go, but from the
We can't
get-go,
prove
we
it.
didn't
We
talk
just-
about it, Roger.
We just need to table it because
So
we're not.
I don't
we're
know.
on the same
Not-
page.
I'm
We're
up
not-
Probably
for
gonna
it,
fail
but-
tonight anyway, so.
So,
Who made the motion?
If you want to do it, Kevin, I'm more happy to do it, to talk about it.
okay,
Dean,
But we got way too much stuff.
okay, well, that's why I don't think we can approve it tonight. So let's table it.
All right, you, Thomas, your motion.
I rescind my motion.
Second, rescission?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that all I gotta do?
Yeah, and then have a motion to table it.
Someone give me a motion to table this, resolution 2234 to the next meeting.
I'll move.
Second, anyone?
One second.
Jody had her hand up. All right, we're gonna move on.
Get the vote. Get the
So I gotta
vote.
vote on,
Yeah.
Councilperson Sexton,
Yes.
Stulman,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler,
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, so I have one comment.
go ahead.
If this went to planning and zoning, and planning and zoning approved this, that's my point. Why didn't planning and zoning look at all this?
Well,
Or did they?
They did, they brought up the sidewalk.
Sidewalks were talked about, but not the turn lane.
Okay. So I would like it to go planning and zoning and all this turn lane stuff.
Might be a step before that.
You gotta remember, they're volunteers. You can't be beating on them too hard.
To me, it even seems like there might be a step before that. Because I don't know how we can take a plat and just assume there's a turn lane. And take it more and more sidewalks and take it more.
Can we
These guys
move
over
on?
here even
Yeah.
think care.
Can we move on? We pretty much beat this to death for the last 40 minutes and we're no farther along. So can we just move on?
We'll chat tomorrow-ish. Come up with a plan of attack. Okay, resolution 22-35, approving clean services with Jamie Seelick. This is for Park and Rec bathrooms. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Jody and Colton. Is that Melissa?
It is me, yeah.
Hi.
I don't know what's going on back there, but yes, this
Silhouette.
is for cleaning of the park bathrooms, Veronic, Lions Field and Cubby Park. It's within budget.
My only thought is if there's tournaments out there or tournaments up at Cubby Park and stuff, I'm not real sure that 112 hours
I was wondering. the
it
same
may
thing.
require more than that.
We, during tournaments, we take care of the bathrooms during the event.
Oh.
So this is
I didn't
only,
know
a
that. All right,
this is only as a routine. That's one of the things that the staff on duty takes care of.
okay.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Melissa.
Who takes care of this now?
It's been between Parks and Rec and Public Works. The intention was, it used to always be Public Works. Then last year, We had had somebody lined up, but didn't really work out. So it was kind of a joint between the two of us. And this is gonna hopefully take it off our plates a little bit and free up some of our time. Like I said, it's one thing that we had budgeted for.
They duke it out. It's a pretty serious fight. He cleans it up. I know it. So
Fight
Jamie's,
over who has to do it or fight over who gets to do it?
that's the short straw. So Jamie's more than willing to do it. Any other comments? Go ahead, Leslie.
Councilperson Stulman,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Dean,
Yes.
Goodweiler.
Yes.
All right, building permit fees.
So I will update you on our progress. In the interim, I don't really have the authority to do this, but in the interim, we have noticed some, and I want to emphasize some contractors that are undervaluing the value of their property, so they do not have to pay the full amount of a building permit. We authorized, which is in our code, we authorized our building inspector, Terry Gert, to use the international code for pricing per square foot. That is a national average, so it's kind of too high. So in the interim, I've just said do 80% of the national average. The last 2 weeks, we've been spinning our tires back and forth, and so I thought the 80% for the interim would stop the tire spinning while being fair to both the city and the contractor. But that will need to be approved by you guys at some point, but, you know,
So in the past, what we did, we just had them come in and say, we're gonna build a $220,000 building. And we was like, okay.
because of the incentive program.
It was a flat fee during the last 5 years. But prior to that, they would just mark their price down. Paul
We was
Stagg
gonna
was,
trust a contractor.
Paul Stagg was the one who.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
That's, I mean, that's a normal process, actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not a builder.
Well, it just seems like that would have been the way to do it all along.
There was a couple that came in that we thought were pretty low. Leslie thought they were pretty low. And I don't know what they saved in building permit fee. $200.
Well, it's like when you buy a used car, you don't ever tell them what you paid for it. You always go there and say it's a $200 car. Well, it's only 4 years old. Yeah, I got a good deal on it, you know?
So what do we ask? What do we?
I'm just updating you because
Yeah.
technically I don't have the authority to make that call, but I thought in the interim, we need to do something because we were just spinning our tires. So that will need to be an ordinance change in 3 readings and all that stuff.
Which we
So-
did put in the schedule. Correct.
It was removed from the code back in 2015.
You can do it though, but without that, because as much building is going on, we may want to condense some readings and get it in there faster.
That was gonna be my only.
That's, we can do that one. So it's, if you want to go ahead with that, we can just bring it back.
Yeah.
80% like a.
Well, we kind of worked it out a little bit.
80% out,
with-
Or is it like?
We
a
worked out with
thought
Chad
process?
too, so we had a developer working with us. So
Terry Gert's fine with
Yeah,
that.
so
He's fine.
Terry kind of gave guidance because I had a couple of the builders that I sold lots to had submitted for Parkside, which is starting, and they were a little high comparative to the other cities that we're all in. And so Terry and I and Adam had a discussion a couple of weeks ago, and Terry has, of course, does it everywhere, so he had some guidance on how to do it. But yeah, some of the permits were just comparative to TIF and North Liberty, Iowa City, were at the full assessment was pretty high, so. So Terry just said that he got that percent before. That's what the average for.
80% is fair.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was.
Does that
Not
change
that I
our,
don't believe Terry.
how
There
does
was
that
more
change
to
our
it than
fees then?
80%.
The way the system, the way it's calculated, so now when they put the square footage Terry reviews to make sure that the finished square footage is actually represented correctly. They can put $1 there, but he's gonna go based off the square footage. He takes the square footage times the 104.46 to come up with the value, and then I take that value and apply it to our fee schedule. So our fee
Okay.
schedule wouldn't change. It would just be
Okay.
adding the language that we're gonna use 80%, which is at 104.46, or whatever. This is from 2021. That's what that rate is. And now if it increases, then we maybe have to add some language that's from the most current ICC.
I don't want to update it.
Yeah, we don't want to update it every year.
Or we can say it's set at this and then can get changed by resolution later. So.
Chad, I mean, it sounds like you've worked with this. I haven't built a house in quite a while, so I'm not sure of costs.
Because their 2021 figure was like a $133 per square foot hard cost on average for everything. So
That was state or
that
national.
was
National.
International code.
Yeah, national average is
That seems
130.
lower than hell.
No,
No.
that actually is pretty high because when you start to figure a basement, especially when you do upstairs and basement,
Finished
they're
square foot.
very much different in cost per square foot.
Right.
And I mean, your upstairs can be higher and basement can be,
Gotcha.
30, 35 bucks,
Right.
So when you combine the two, it came out to be an average, which then we looked at kind of what the other cities have been charging in the past too. And it was similar buildings. So when we talked about the ones that were permitting here, they are actually bringing the same building they did in the subdivision over there that they bought the lot from. And so we there was some comparison going on to the other cities too.
So you were able to use their cost to build? To
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
come up
well,
with
it was
the
the square
price?
footage actually, which
Oh.
made it really good. When Terry did it, it was basically the 20 percentile drop was getting it closer to the number that it should be for our area as compared to the full price throughout the entire nation. And that was Terry's suggestion. He said, yeah, we've seen this before. And he goes, we come back to that 80% to get it closer to what our actual square footage costs. So comparative.
As a builder, I'd be coming to the city and go, I want like 60%, not 80.
Yeah, so the fact that he's coming out with 80 might be pretty good.
Because the last time, I mean,
He's
last time
agreeing.
I got a full permit, I'm like, and that's back 4 or 5 years ago when
We should be happy.
when
He's agreeing to 80, so it
$2,500
must
to
be a good deal.
$3,000 was the building
$3,000
permit.
or $4,000 for a
Yeah,
building.
it was
Terrible.
Terry's suggestion.
Maybe we should go at 90 if he's okay with 80.
Not if you're a builder.
No, I'm not. That's what I mean. He's okay with 80, maybe.
Okay, does that give you guys direction? Temporary brush pile. All right, Matt's come up with a plan. Seems decent to me.
So after our last meeting, I talked to Dave and Dave brought up that the Kroll site was gonna be put on that area down there for a couple years, and then maybe if I contacted the owner of that property, they'd let us use it. So contacted them, went out there, looked on the site, and he was fine with us putting our brush pile there for the 2 years that Kroll is gonna be there, which would be the 2 years that we'd need it for the wastewater expansion. The only issue we ran into was the entrances for Kroll coming in were off of Fawcett, and getting in and out of there might be difficult. He has in his mind that at some point he wants to put in a entrance off of Baker, which is like 500 or 600 feet to the south. So Dave was out here for something else. He went out and looked at it. It looked like the sight distances were good and everything was good for turning. So he asked that if we were gonna use that, then maybe we pay to put in a culvert and the drive coming off of there as a temporary deal. If and when they decided to put a road off of there, they'd have to bring back a site plan and get that approved to actually put that in permanent. But I didn't want to pursue it any further without asking the opinion. of
We put in a
council.
metal culvert or a concrete culvert?
He said he might be able to find something that he has around. I mean, it's gonna be intended to be temporary with the idea that at some point there might be an entrance there anyway, so I would think that it'd probably come back out at some point.
Oh, okay. Then a metal one would be fine.
Or plastic, it could be plastic.
All right.
But he would also use it as like a haul road coming in, because he's gonna do some work on the back southeast corner of that property also, while the sale site. There's a lot of pulp mills up there on the northwest corner, so. But, yeah, I just didn't want to pursue it any further if it wasn't something the council was.
Are
okay
we
with.
paying for anything?
I think we'd be paying for the
Like
culvert
lot rent?
installation.
Just the installation.
And I mean, obviously, whatever goes along with that, I didn't get a price on it, none of that, he would put it in and everything. The other nice thing is he has a grinder, a tub grinder, so when we're done with the brush pile, he'd grind it all. We've got bids from him before, we've been using, Ratchy, yeah, every other time, so we use them. So, his prices were similar to Ratchy's.
Do we have to do a fence and a gate?
I think it'd be in our best interest to gate it, and then probably, even if it's not a fence, if it's roped off, something to, probably 8 foot.
I mean,
Something like
if
that.
we gotta
Yeah,
go
it's a
over
piece.
the road and put a fence or
Yeah.
put a gate across it, I don't think we'd be, if you got an 8-foot ditch.
Yeah.
you've
no
got-
one's
You're a little
crossing the
bit,
ditch, going through the ditch.
you're a little bit more.
I wouldn't think we
Is
need a
it-
fence.
Are we looking at this
Anyway,
as open
Give
it
it a
up to the
shot,
public,
but
or would it still be closed?
I think it would still be closed and we would just use it. The main reason is because then at that point, we're on private property where then it opens the owner up to issues, so.
Okay,
We'll be responsible for everybody else because they'd make us sign an agreement. So we're responsible for everybody instead of just us.
okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, it makes sense now, but unless you're a resident in town, you got a lot of trash you wanna haul to the
Yeah, I
brush
know.
pile. Leslie's gonna get a lot of complaints.
I already did.
You
already
probably already are with it being closed.
Yes.
Is that something we could make?
And
A
it also is
tossover
gonna make
once
public
again?
works have to work a lot more to pick up the debris.
On Monday, I mean, yeah, I fully expect that our Mondays are gonna be pretty heavy with yard waste. We have in the past when if somebody has a bigger, like a tree they take down or something, they haul it out, we'll go and pick that up with a grapple. We just make a special trip, I guess. and They call in and set it up and we go do it anyway. I would imagine this is gonna end up with more of that than normal, so.
I guess my thought is, we have a storm on Tuesday. What are people gonna do with all the storm damage till the following Monday, which means there's that much, you're not gonna get picked up on Monday, following Monday.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a storm, we go out the next day anyway. I mean, that's what we do until it's cleaned up, so it's,
You know, but
no, I get what you're saying.
But- maybe in that case, it's a deal where you have somebody man that for the public to do what you would have to take time to do.
We could do that.
Still,
I mean, if
It's
it
a
was
lot
in the
cheaper
case
for
of
the
something
public to
where-
haul their trash out there than it is for public works to haul the trash out there.
but Hawkenstadt may not want public on their property to do that.
I'm sure we could throw a temporary orange fence around a chunk of the property that we're gonna use.
Okay,
Want
this
the
is a
legal
good
route.
alternative.
Legal
though.
route.
So
Yeah,
we
I-
just have to indemnify them against anybody, of us or the public. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, if I was them, I'd make them, we're gonna indemnify them no matter what, because we're on their property, so.
I mean, so if we want to have it open, I think then that's a discussion we have to have with them. and
Yeah.
just Make sure he's okay with it and
Yep.
have Kevin write something up and go that route. So
I-
whatever.
2 years is a long time for
Oh, yeah.
residents in this town to
I agree.
have to wait on
Yeah.
Monday to get the stuff picked up, and I
want
guarantee you,
people
you're
to-
not gonna get it all picked up on Monday.
No.
I talked to Rob Bangman about says no way. We can't take stuff out to the Cedar Bluff. Nah. Okay, this is a good plan, Matt. Thank you.
What do other towns do?
Great question. Is
John
it
Akers.
possible to get garbage bags sold here in West Greenwich for the yard waste?
Yes, we sell them here at the office.
off, so only place to get them.
Yeah.
Okay.
The grocery store used to have them, and the new owners don't have them.
Silly boy.
What else we got here? City administrator, what have you?
For, I guess, the sake of time, April 17th will be induction date if we don't have it by then. So I'll try and make that council meeting.
Oh,
18th.
Not
I
Hall
was
of-
wondering what he was talking about.
Not
too.
Hall of Fame induction.
Yeah, I put it together after.
took a minute.
If it's not a super time consuming one, then I'll be here for the 18th meeting. But I will probably be in and out
You gonna be here on the
even when
18th?
I'm on.
Okay.
Is that a good thing?
You gotta ask that
Do what you
one,
gotta
Lori,
do.
are you-
Yeah. Yes, I'll be here in the 18th.
Okay.
Yeah.
You try to-
Kevin, you got anything?
I think I've talked enough.
Okay. Dave?
Just a couple of updates. Herman River Highway, the county plans to have that closed April 18th for construction. And they'll have it closed for the duration of the project. Wastewater plant, contractor plans to start in June, first week of June. And the only other thing I have to update, which Jody had mentioned, Chad's been making good progress out there at the Hoopie. Have quite a few things tore up. The building's really taking shape and hopefully have that button up here 6 months.
6 months. The gas station's supposed to reopen mid-May.
Mid-May, okay.
Yeah.
You haven't been up there lately. You got a lot of people working up there.
We have long.
All right.
Hovercraft.
Yeah, we know how rain works. Really slow.
Staff. City staff, anybody, anything? Hearing none? Mayor and council. I can't think of anything I have.
I have something.
Development agreements are being worked on with Goal Site and Chad. Being worked on. So we'll see. Need to get a draft in front of you guys. I haven't seen it yet. So. At some point, go ahead. What do you got?
So I was driving into town coming back from town on Saturday, and we noticed there was a bunch of garbage in the fence row on the east side of the high school there. My wife asked me who owned that property. Was the park or the school or the farm or whatever. I mean, it was pretty nasty. So I didn't know. So then Sunday morning, we went to breakfast, we were coming back in, and Kevin Stulman sitting out there picking the garbage out fence row, cleaned it all up, and it looked nice. So wanted to thank Kevin Stulman for being a good resident. His hard work's appreciated. As if he doesn't do enough.
I know it. All right, thank you, Colton. Anything else, anybody? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Nick will second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.